What's going on, everybody? Mike Kadlick here, Taylor Kyles there, back with a new edition of the Patriots postgame show here on CLNS. Patriots just wrap up their second preseason game of the summer with a 20-12 win over the Minnesota Vikings. They start the Vrabel era 2-0 here, as some starters play for the Patriots, as basically no starters play for the Vikings. We're going to break it all down. A big day from Efton Chism. Some ups and downs on the defensive side of the football. Drake Maye, a little bit sporadic in his two drives. We'll hit on that. We'll hit on some Stefon Diggs stuff, even though he did not play today. There has been some storylines and drama around him, so we'll touch on that a little bit. But Taylor, I think the big news here is Kyle Dugger. I wanted to start offensively. I wanted to start on a high note originally with Efton Chism because of the day he had, but Kyle Dugger, playing throughout the end of a preseason game, just last offseason signs not a mega deal, but a long-term deal with this team, and playing through the fourth quarter, comes down with an interception at the end of the game, which is promising, and then nearly fumbles and gives it back to the Minnesota Vikings. So there's a lot to get to on the defense, so we'll actually start there, and we'll start with Dugger and kind of fold in the fact that Craig Woodson, the rookie fourth-round pick out of Cal, was a starting safety for this team today alongside Jalen Hawkins. Jabril Peppers didn't play, so that's a bit of a caveat there. But Woodson continues to climb. Dugger continues to fall as we see he's on the field with, I don't even know who Minnesota's third-string quarterback was today, former UNH Minnesota Gopher undrafted kid. Picks him off, but
they pick him a lot apparently. Max something?
Brosnan, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yep. No, that sounds familiar. That is correct. But yeah, so I want to get your thoughts on the whole safety room, but specifically starting with Dugger, because it looks like his spot on this team continues to dwindle. I don't know, when we did a whole segment on it last week before you left for Minnesota. I don't know what they do from here, if they cut him, if they trade him, if they keep him. It's just kind of a cluster right now, and the fact that he was on the field through the end of the game says a lot to me on his standing with the team right now.
And we found out even more about Kyle Dugger earlier this week than when we were last here, because Mike Vrabel was asked about him a couple of times. One time, he did emphasize the fact that Kyle Dugger was recovering from an injury, and as we know, he missed all of spring on that reconstructed ankle and finally got to play in the summer. But whereas Jabril Peppers also missed the spring, but then kind of just got right back into the lineup, I don't know the severity of both injuries. People recover differently. I don't want to necessarily compare them in that vein. But you see that clearly the time missed didn't do that much for Jabril Peppers, because he's still out there and he is a starter when he is on the field, versus Kyle Dugger, who just keeps sinking. And one thing Mike Vrabel did say is he needs to know his assignments and coverage. He needs to execute. It kind of reminded me of the Javon Baker response that we got from Alex Van Pelt last year, where it sounds like, okay, maybe he's not quite up to speed on the defense, still trying to get his legs under him. And this is a new defensive system that he's playing for the first time in his career, and I do think that's significant. At the same time, when you see him move laterally, it just doesn't look great. And I asked Mike Vrabel if it would be any consideration of moving Kyle Dugger to linebacker, where some of those range issues wouldn't be quite as profound. You still saw he can defend the run. If there was any good that he did today, it was coming downhill and filling gaps. And Mike Vrabel didn't rule it out, even though I was an idiot and asked initially if he would move Kyle Dugger to safety. Had to correct myself after. He's like, move him to safety. I was like, I knew that was going to happen. He acknowledged that, yeah, it's a possibility. He basically gave me that we want to put players in the best position to succeed, do what's best for the football team. But that's not nothing, because he also could have said, no, we believe that Kyle Dugger is a safety, but, we're just trying to work him along in the system or something along those lines. So it's a bad sign, man. He wasn't just playing late. He got the interception, we think. Right. It was ruled that, but it also looked like he might have fumbled it in the end zone for a bad play on the last snap of the game. So, I tweeted, the good Kyle Dugger interception, bad on the final snap. So, I mean, we've seen Anfernee Jennings play for a long time, but that's different, right? Because that's a loaded, edged room where he may not be a scheme fit. We thought Kyle Dugger was a scheme fit, but as we've seen, he's rolling with the backups, not getting any opportunities anymore with the starting defense. So clearly he's lost his footing, and I don't really know what happens at this point, short of maybe next year seeing him play in the box more, which is where we mostly saw him during this game.
Yeah, it's definitely an unfortunate turn of events here for Dugger. I think that you mentioned an interception at the end. Watching it a couple times on the TV broadcast, if this wasn't a preseason game at the end of the game like that very well could have been overturned. That was coming out as his cheeks hit the ground, if you will. And
get the hell out of there after that.
Yeah, exactly. Vrabel ran on the field. He's like, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. Like, I'm going to shake O'Connell's hand and get out of here. So, yeah.
Wait a minute. I was afraid of Mike Vrabel. Do you remember that quote?
What was it?
Remember the when Mike Vrabel wasn't getting jobs that one?
Oh yeah, because he's too big and burly.
Afraid of Mike Vrabel.
Yeah,
afraid of him too. Apparently.
Exactly. Yeah, the refs. Game over. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting in this guy's way. He'll run me over just like he ran over a bunch of Vikings and Patriots during practice that you got to see while out there in Minnesota. But on the safety note, do want to transition Duggar to Craig Woodson. I know we talked about him a little bit, but he's become the beneficiary of. Obviously, Pepper's not playing, due to kind of ramping him up, continuing to get him back from injury. But Kyle Duggar falling down the depth chart. And, he wasn't necessarily flashy today. But, I mean, you essentially called it and talked about it once you did some more, research into Woodson and finding out what he did at Cal after the draft. Like, this guy is going to be a defensive he's going to contribute to this defense this season. And he's getting the opportunities now, and he looks good. I think he only had 2 tackles today, but he's on 3 of their special teams units, who the special teams have been awesome for the Patriots basically throughout this preseason. I know we'll get to the kickers' ups and downs a little bit too, but Woodson, the special teams been good. Woodson's been a part of that, and he also looked solid on the defensive side of the football today. So if and when Duggar's fate on this team, comes about, where do you see Woodson playing in, and how do you kind of see that the 3 to 4 safety rotation with Hawkins and Peppers as well kind of working itself out?
I think they want to keep Jalen Hawkins as more of a center fielder type, because we've seen he has very good range. He's a pretty consistent tackler. And then if it is going to be, now when it's Jabril Peppers, those are the top 2 guys. So you'd assume that Jabril Peppers is going to be more of the box safety. But when they did go in those 3 safety packages, like with the Commanders, it was still Kyle Duggar at that point. But we know that now that is a spot where they kind of bump Jalen Hawkins over to the other deep safety spot and put Woodson there. So they're going to be deep. And then what they've been doing is using Jabril Peppers as more of a slot corner. Sometimes against 11 personnel, 3 receiver sets, which I do not like. I hope that's just a preseason experiment. But I think Woodson's going to be somebody they move around a ton. As the game went on, you saw him at deep safety in the box in man coverage. So he's going to be a Swiss Army knife. I don't love him in man coverage, to be fair, either. I really do like him more as a box presence in that Kyle Duggar role. Like we saw, one of his tackles was a really nice run fit. And I think he's a physical guy. He's also a good tackler, and he's a pretty good blitzer. But he can play in the post as well. So when it's him and Hawkins back there, they can do a little bit of everything, even though I don't think either is ideal in man coverage against tight ends. I don't think Jabril Peppers is great in that role either, just because he's a smaller guy. And these tight ends are going like 6'5" with huge wingspans. It's even like Woodson. He's got shorter arms, which is why I don't like him covering tight ends. Because if you just put it up for a guy, there's not a whole lot they can do. But I think that Woodson's going to be more of a box presence when Jalen Hawkins is on the field with him. And Jabril Peppers kind of that guy, again, using him in the slot, in the box, more close to the line of scrimmage.
Final big sort of topic on the defense before we get into the nitty gritty is Anfernee Jennings. And it's a fascinating storyline, bottom-ish of the roster storyline here. But like, this dude's a good player. We've seen him be a good player in the NFL since he's been with the team in 2020. A good run defender, and makes an impact today in the passing game with 3 total sacks. Now, I ask you this, and I kind of want to lay it out to you this way, because like we say he's not a scheme fit, but when you go out there and play good football like this, it's almost like make him be a scheme fit. And I know it's not that easy, obviously, but get him in there. He makes plays. And so why do you think that they can't get him into this starting unit, especially with a linebacker room? I know it's different on the edge and vice versa, but like, Jelani Tavai's not out there. And yes, he's more in the edge room with guys like Keon White and, the ones who are defending on the edge. But Jennings plays good again today. And it sounds like, and I see it from, our beat reporter contingent, where he goes out there and has 3 sacks and everyone's like, yeah, you hope the Patriots can trade this guy. Like, why can't they just find him a spot on the roster? So what do you make of it? Jennings looked really good again today, but now he enters week 3 of the preseason, continuing to run with the 2s and 3s. And like Kyle Duggar today, was in the game all the way through the end of the 4th quarter, basically.
So one, I kind of saw it as if there was going to be any veteran edge guy who forced their way onto this roster, because this is a stacked position. And that's a big reason that Anfernee Jennings is on the outside looking in, on top of the fact that he's a bit of an odd scheme fit, because you got Keon White and Harold Landry. Those are your top starters. Caleb on Chason has looked excellent. When he was out there today, he was even making plays, contributed
Ran
to
right through the left tackle to try and get to Sam Howell at one point.
Crazy bull rush. Like he's impactful as a pass rusher. He also had on the third down scramble, he had a really nice, that's the same one I'm thinking of, but he also was effective against the run. So he's a well-rounded player who's going to be regularly in this rotation, and Braden Swinson is going to make the roster. He's a guy who also, I think, flashed as a pass rusher and a run defender, despite being known really only as a pass rusher. And then Elijah Ponder, a guy who's making an impact on multiple special teams units and flashes when he's on the field. Like, you're going to defer to those two talented projects over a Truman Jones or an Anfernee Jennings. So that's five edge defenders, which is just a 180 from last year, where you felt like you didn't have anybody but Anfernee Jennings, who was just taking on way more of a load than he needed to. But today, I will say, Anfernee Jennings as a pass rusher has really been more of a speed to power guy, and kind of he'll slant inside on a blitz and catch guys off guard. Today, you saw him use the stab and then rip around the edge for 2 of his sacks, which I thought was really impressive. And also showing some range when the quarterback tries to get out of the pocket, just getting a shoestring tackle for a 14-yard loss. Like, those are things you don't really think of with Anfernee Jennings. Needs to also be acknowledged, he's playing backups. In the past 2 weeks, it's been the same thing. Anfernee Jennings is not playing poorly. He's been kicking ass in these preseason games because he's going up against relative scrubs. Like, this is an elite run defender, and a guy who doesn't give you the juice and flexibility of most pass rushers, especially like you want in the scheme. But if he is flashing as a pass rusher, guy has 3 sacks. Like, I don't really care who it's against. You have to at least give him a closer look. So realistically, I think what this does is make him a more appealing trade target to a team that really uses more of those 5-man fronts, where he doesn't have to rush. Maybe he can actually just drop into coverage versus being used in a capacity that you don't typically think of him excelling in. But man, I'm excited to look at the tape and see what kind of impact he was making. I mean, even last week, he was making some kind of impact as a rusher. So it's going to be hard to keep him on the team, as much as I've always loved Anfernee Jennings. It's just a numbers game at this point. But if he's raising his stock, it could be good for both systems. And one thing I also want to mention before we move on from this is the Patriots still do run a lot of 3-4 stuff. When I looked last week in their base packages, you saw about an even split of 4-3 and 3-4, even though they were both 5-man fronts. So there is a role for Anfernee Jennings in this defense, but the thing is, when they go nickel, it's mostly 4 down, right? It's not the 5 down like you would see with Bill Belichick. But when you have a Milton Williams, a Christian Barmore, guys who can be those interior players who also are impactful when they're getting outside to rush, maybe if you really like Anfernee Jennings, you do find a way. Again, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think really all this did was help his prospects as a trade target. Maybe he can go to a system where he'll be able to really live up to his potential even more, and he won't be buried on the depth chart, and the Patriots can get a return on their investment, because this is a guy that they extended. They wanted him to be a linchpin, but now that's Harold Landry, because this is a brand new defensive system. So I cannot sing Anfernee Jennings praises enough, man. He does every single thing he's asked at 100%, never complains. I really respect him as a professional. And I'm glad that he got to just add more to his preseason tape. So maybe somebody really goes out there and tries to get him, because even as good as he's been and as elite as he is as a run defender, I don't see how he fits in a 4-man defense.
No, it's a good point. And it's good for him too, to, add to that preseason resume, to be like, yes, I say, find a role for him because he's that good. But if that role for him is still going to be only a handful of snaps a game, like, that's not worth it to him either. He's going out there and putting good tape on film. He should be able to get traded to a team that wants to use that type of skill set of his and then translate into more NFL success. And I think it is worth noting too, again, the last couple of weeks, that it has been against the backups and the seconds and the third strings. And, if he were to go, and he had a good end to the last couple of seasons of, here in New England, playing against starters and ones in the regular season. But
it's just so overused last year, man.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell it just wasn't used to that kind of role, and it showed.
Right. And it's the Vikings didn't play a bunch of guys today, so it's with a grain of salt, but still goes out there, has 3 interceptions, and helps that defense hold them to the 16 points that they put up today. So, or the 12 points they put up today, rather. A couple more notes on the defense. Alex Austin played well. He's another guy who, like Craig Woodson, is making the most and being able to get out there due to injuries / depth chart situation in his position room. Comes down with the interception off Sam Howell. started by a K'Lavon Chase on pressure, who was awesome today as well. And then one more thing on the cornerback room, Carlton Davis goes out there and has a nice pass breakup on Lucky Jackson. Now,
funny because I thought he got lucky he didn't get a flag. The one I tweeted was like he was all over that slant, but there's no flag. So
like he was quite literally all over that slant. And so that's the thing I want to talk about the corners before we finish up here, because Jordan Polk had a pretty good day today as well, had the sack and looked good on special teams. I don't know what his fit on this final roster is, but he was out there making plays towards the end of the game. But specifically on Davis and Austin looks good, has the interception, which I'm reading your notes that you sent over. It was more opportunistic than a great play because Howell kind of just chucked the thing up. But good on Austin, to come
which
out
was
under.
Basically what we saw in joint practice, by the way. Like it looked just like that. Sam Howell was yikes. Then it's like, oh, this Max kid can kind of rip it. But yeah, at least he capitalized.
Yeah, right. And then Davis too. I think it's while he, that could have been DPI in a regular game. We'll see what happens on that. But he's out there, sticks to Jackson quite literally, and not necessarily that play, but him being out there in a preseason game obviously bodes well for his standing on this team week one, being out there, being healthy after he's kind of been in and out of the lineup throughout the first couple weeks of summer.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, you kind of broke up at the end. I was trying to pick up and I was like, I can't. I didn't hear what you said at the end. My system does that. My bad.
I want to make sure that my mic's good too, but no, I was just saying that for Davis. Yes, he has the PBU, and yes, it might have been a penalty, but I think it's good to see him out there because it is a preseason game. They've been so cautious with him. He's missed a couple practices here and there, and now he's back out there in game action, which I thought was promising.
Yeah, and we spoke to him. He thought that we were trying to bait him into, giving more information about his status than he was comfortable giving out. But he talked about like his energy on the field and how he wants to bring a certain aggression and all those things. That's great. He also got burned a few times in joint practices, like had a DPI, gave up some catches. I still do like what Carlton Davis can bring in certain matchups, but I am worried about how he's going to perform against guys. And I've been saying this, guys who have more lateral explosiveness, who are very quick and twitchy and are really good route runners. Those are guys that are going to give him problems. And I think there's going to be games where like, hey, if I'm mugging you the entire game, they're not going to throw a flag on every play. There's something to that, right? It's the Brandon Browner mentality of, you can't just call a game where you're going to keep flagging me. But we also saw games where Browner would get flagged like 3 times. Right. And it's like, all right, dude, come on. Like, yes, maybe not every play, but you're doing a lot. That's his play style. If that's what they want to do to bring some attitude, I respect it. And I will say, we've seen some solid depth in this cornerback room. So if like worst case scenario, Carlton Davis got in a game situation where he was getting toasted, I wouldn't hate to see what like Alex Austin could do if you wanted him to be outside. DJ James, we know, has been very competitive. Right. Even though I'm not quite sold on him as a starter, I do like him as depth. But I'm still TBD on Carlton Davis, to be honest. I want to see the tape and see if he was more consistent outside of that play than I thought. But I'm a little bit worried about what he's going to do in some tougher matchups, but it's good that Alex Austin had himself a nice game because, we don't know what his role can necessarily look like, but I feel like he's earned a spot on this team, on this top defense in some capacity.
100% earned a spot in that top defense. And especially with Davis being in and out, Gonzo having not been out there for the last couple weeks, I'm sure he's going to be fine for week one, but that's still sort of a question mark. So to have somebody outside of Davis and Gonzo and even Marcus Jones, who you feel like you can rely on, that's been Alex Austin over these last couple weeks. So good stuff there from him and from the rest of the cornerback room. Now, let's get to the fun stuff. We'll touch on the offense. Efton Chism has a big day. But first, we got to hear from a new sponsor here over at Monarch Money. We will be right back. Like it or not, money is everything. And oftentimes, people have no idea where their finances are. Whether it's 401ks, investment accounts, or property, a lack of awareness leaves money on the table every single day. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Feel organized and confident in your finances with Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean interface on your laptop or phone. And right now, just for our listeners, Monarch is offering 50% off your first year. I started using Monarch recently, and I feel like I now have complete control over my portfolio because of it. The app is super easy to use, and it's also built for people with busy lives, juggling personal life, jobs, and more. Monarch is truly the best way to get a handle on your finances. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code PATRIOTS at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code Patriots. Man, we got to get some background music on that. I felt like I was preaching Monarch Money way too much. All our other reads have like something spicy in the background. I was just Monarch Money. And full disclosure, when I recorded that, I had to do it like 15 times because every time I couldn't say Monarch Money back to back, I was just like spitting all over myself. I was saying like market money and all that, but it's Monarch Money. Use Monarch Money. It's a great financial tool. New sponsor here at CLNS. And use code Patriots. You get 50% off your first year on Monarch Money. Puts together all your investment portfolios into one. Makes everything super easy to use. All right, Taylor, let's get to the good stuff, at least on offense. Now, we'll hit everything on offense, the good, the bad, the ugly. But Efton Chism was great today, once again. Looks to be all but a roster lock, in my opinion, right now. My only question to you is, and I was wondering this last week when they finally got him out there with those ones in Drake Maye, when are we going to see him with this starting unit? Because it hasn't been, and maybe you can dive in a little bit more about what happened in Minnesota or what have you. But yes, he's been great. He's been awesome with Josh Dobbs, who hasn't been good this preseason. The one sort of benefit he's had is that Chism's basically always been open. He's able to get on the ball, and he's been able to, 6 for 71 today, a touchdown with what Mike Vrabel mentioned last week. The play strength of Efton Chism shows it off today, goes in for, breaks 3 tackles in the score. Is Efton Chism a lock, and when and why haven't we seen him with the ones just yet?
I've seen him as a virtual lock for probably the past couple weeks.
Okay.
For me, it was just like, unless he plays himself off the roster, I just think there's too much talent in there. And like I tweeted last month, I expected, and I felt this way for a while, but I thought he was going to dominate the preseason and make himself an impossible guy to cut. I don't even think it's close. Like, everyone keeps saying Chism and Javon Baker. I'm like, that is not a battle.
I agree.
It's been Chism for a couple weeks at least. And there was 1 week where there was the Commanders week. I felt like he did miss some opportunities there, and they were pretty tough opportunities, and I want to give him credit for that. But he's just a really good player. He's smart. He's consistent. He works his tail off. He's got some skill as a punt returner as well. He'll run block, so I can see him in that Jacoby Myers kind of role where he's not just in the slot. He can also play Z for you and be at the point of attack on runs. Like, he has the profile of a guy who's going to earn every single touch that he gets. I think he's absolutely a roster lock. Like, it's not even close. And now, so I think that's case closed. Yeah. Like, I don't even see how he has to play himself off the roster at this point.
This is one of those things where, too, you mentioned that he's going to be a post or a preseason darling and he's going to dominate whatever. He's played so well at this point where, like, if you do cut him, you're worrying about him getting scooped up on waivers because he was such a sought after UDFA. The Patriots paid him a lot of money and guarantees. So, like, if you do let him go, it's going to be difficult to get him back on the practice squad. So I think what he's done so far, somebody would probably claim him.
Exactly, because it's one thing like a Javon Baker where you see the talent, but like today, he also misses opportunities. He makes mistakes where you're like, I can't put this guy on the field in a real game. But if he's going to contribute on special teams, that gives him an opportunity to make the roster. Chism is going to make it as an offensive player who can contribute on special teams if you need him to. And I mentioned in Minnesota because this is his best week of practice. He's been automatic. I think like every time the ball's gone his way, he's caught it unless there was some outstanding play from the defender.
Sure.
So you're talking about, all right, Stefon Diggs, Pop Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, that's your top 3. Mac Hollins has been the 4, but Mac Hollins has not been nearly as consistent as Efton Chism's been. Now, there is value in Mac Hollins being as big as he is. He's got size that they don't really have on the roster, his blocking ability, his knowledge of this Josh McDaniels offense and all that. But I think it's more than fair for him and Efton Chism to have a bit of a battle because they do play similar roles. Mac Hollins has a bit more outside flexibility, which will help him there. But I don't see a reason that Mac Hollins should be getting any lion's share of reps over Efton Chism when Efton Chism's producing. And albeit a lot of his production has come against backups, but okay, bump him up and let's get him more opportunities and see what he can do. And it's not like he hasn't repped with the ones. We saw him and Javon Baker start rotating, and that's pretty much been the case all summer. It's not like Efton Chism is so buried that he's not getting any reps with Drake Maye. The biggest thing is Drake doesn't really throw his way, which you understand because he doesn't really work with him nearly as much as he does with Pop, with Kayshon. And I think we see that Drake though he likes to spread the ball out, I've noticed this preseason with the younger guys, he isn't quite as comfortable targeting them. Kyle Williams, he's definitely tried to get him involved, but I remember in the scrimmage, it felt like he was kind of looking more to the older guys when the bullets were flying and it was really serious game situation. But I'd love to see Drake finally start getting enough reps with Efton Chism that he can feel like Joshua Dobbs does, like Ben Woldridge does, where when this guy's in the game and it's a big situation, I'm locking in on him unless the coverage takes him away. So I think right now Efton Chism is the pretty clear wide receiver 5, and he should be competing for that 4th spot as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. There it is. Thank you. Efton Chism wants it more than you. Yeah, he went for it. 53-man roster right there. It was a great play. He catches the ball in space, makes a guy miss, breaks 3 tackles, doesn't give up, and scores. And I mentioned it earlier, but Vrabel talked about his play strength for somebody who is, a shorter, shifty, quick, not fast wide receiver. That's exactly what you need from a guy like that. So very good stuff from him. He has another week in a row where he continues to look like a roster lock, someone who I think, again, I mentioned it, but would get claimed if the Patriots cut him. I don't think they can let him loose. So some really good stuff from Efton Chism. Now,
also a very interesting guy, I'll add. We got to do our one-on-one exclusive with him. We found out he's an artist. I asked what his favorite off-day activity was, and the dude, he knows graffiti. He's got all this, collection of artwork that he's been doing for, I think, since high school, he mentioned. So not only is he a good player, I'm so excited for that interview to drop because I had my football questions, and then I had some quick hitters at the end where I just wanted to get to know more about him as a person. Fascinating dude and incredibly nice. Nothing against players, but not everyone acknowledges Amit, who's our producer, when he's recording, because he's behind the camera. He's doing a lot of things. I understand these guys are nervous sometimes. Efton Chism shook. He called he knew who Amit was, shook his hand, was nice to Brian, was really kind to me, a really easy guy to root for. So it's awesome seeing him have this success.
So Taylor mentioned it right there. We have an Efton Chism interview coming up on the on YouTube here. Here's a quick preview of Taylor's sit down with Chism. Take a look. Whoop. Sorry, Amit. Do it again.
What is the best piece of advice that you've gotten? Football, life, anything.
I think it's I kind of keep doing it today. It's just one day at a time, one play at a time. Don't get too caught up in the moment. Obviously, I'm so blessed I'm here and I'm so thankful, and I kind of say that to myself each and every day and every play. But if I make a good play, it's all right, next play. If I make a bad play, if I do something wrong, but it's whatever, next play. So that's kind of my mentality. I've always kind of been taught that, and it's something that when I got here, I started to really realize you got to do that here way more in college. In college, you can get away with being upset and having a bad practice, where here it's man, I got to make the most of every single day and every opportunity I get.
So that is actually up now on the channel, but don't leave us just yet. We still have plenty to break down. Once you finish up here, go to Patriots Press Pass, watch that interview, and you can watch Taylor's chat with Efton Chism. Good stuff that Amit also said he put the link in the chat, so you can check it out. Don't leave now. Don't leave us now. Check it out after. We have more to get to.
Bookmark.
Yeah, exactly. Bookmark that, throw it in another tab, but stay on here. You can check that out. Good stuff from Efton Chism, who continues to look like he's going to play an integral part of this Patriots offense this season. Now, let's get to another wide receiver that did not play today, and it's Stefon Diggs. And I don't want to spend too much time here because there's been a little bit more
made of this than is necessary.
And context, especially I think today, the fact that Stefon Diggs didn't play week 2. So he speaks with Rossini, says he doesn't know if he's going to be available week 1. And then Vrabel's asked about it and throw some shade back at Phil. And there's this whole back and forth. And everyone's kind of wondering, what's up with the Patriots and Stefon Diggs? And I did think after and we don't know the reason why he showed up late to practice against the Commanders. So I want to take this all with a grain of salt as well. But after that happened, he doesn't play on Friday against the Commanders. Didn't think it was a big deal because plenty of other starters didn't play. But then Vrabel's asked about it on radio and says it was a coach's decision versus using the injuries as a backup. So that kind of piqued my interest. Not my interest, piqued my mind a little bit. It was okay, this is kind of odd. And then this stuff with Rossini and Vrabel happens, and I just it felt like there was a little bit of oddity, a back and forth between Diggs and the Patriots. Now, him not playing today, Taylor, tells me that this is just an injury ramp up, and they don't want to make any promises because he did just come back from the ACL. Yes, he's been cleared, but he's kind of been back and forth, and he was in and out of the the preseason program, and now he's back and cleared. And it's clear that he's pushing it a little bit more than the team probably wants him to. But again, when I was like, oh, that's kind of strange the way Vrabel handled this the first time, Diggs not being out here again just tells me it's all about the knee, and he's doing everything he can to play week 1. They're just trying to pull him back off it a little bit.
And I'll pull this up. Doug got it from Elliot Wolf's interview with. Can I do that? Can you do it?
I can.
Elliot Wolf at some point during the broadcast got to speak to the broadcast team. If we don't pull it up, it's fine. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh, maybe make that a little bit bigger. Yeah, but Elliot Wolf on Patriots receiver Stefon Diggs. I would say he's probably done more than I would have expected to this point. He's been a tremendous worker. He's been out there practicing every single time we've asked him to. That's all part of Jim Whalen's plan for him moving forward. So maybe he's doing a little bit too much. I don't know, but at least it sounds like he's meeting or exceeding their expectations, which we already knew. And I guess the big thing is the way he answered the Rossini question made, I know Phil said that he was being a pain in the posterior.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily take it that way. And I know that the way Vrabel answered the question, I feel like you can interpret it one of two ways, or maybe a little bit of overlap, where we know that this team is very sensitive to being asked gotcha questions, or what they perceive to be gotcha questions. Yep. That was what it felt like for me for Vrabel. Some people interpreted that as him being annoyed with Stefon Diggs and having to answer these questions. Here's my thing. You signed Stefon Diggs knowing he was an eclectic personality. Yep. You knew that he was not going to be the rank and file, say everything, like spout the company line. He has been in this league for a very long time. He is who he is. Sometimes he might give the media a quote that, you have to answer to. As long as he's not bringing pink substances onto boats and letting people record him and doing things that distract from the team or hurt the team, I do not care. Like, you knew exactly what you were signing up for. So I don't think that was him being a distraction, the answer. Sure. I really don't think it was. I just think he was being honest. And maybe it was a little weird and he's cryptic, but again, we've known this. Diggs's Twitter is just all cryptic tweets. He's literally the wide receiver stereotype. So yeah. I don't want to treat this as insignificant either, because Todd Downing kind of mentioned he's still getting up to speed, which you understand because he wasn't really participating in the spring. It's not crazy. But like you said, he's not even playing in the games. So if they were really that concerned, I feel like they would at least try to get him a series, right? Nothing that would potentially hurt him, but just get him some touches to see how he is. Another thing is that I will say he seems like more of a gamer than a practice player, because we know he hasn't been as automatic at the catch point as we've expected. That was going back to the early summer, where sometimes it doesn't look like he tries very hard to get the ball. But then in one-on-ones to get the Vikings, he's cooking people. He beat Jeff Okudah off the line so badly. Okudah literally didn't know where Diggs was. He had 10 yards of cushion and crazy late hands after beating Byron Murphy, who for some reason stopped. I thought that Diggs gave him a stutter. He didn't. He just ran on a straight line. But then just tracks it, knows if he puts his hands up too early. I
saw that, yeah.
Literally, as the ball got there, just snatched it along the sideline. Diggs can still play like Diggs. I have had some questions in practice, but you also see this dude turn it on and look like his old self. So, again, I do want to acknowledge the inconsistencies in practice. I don't want to completely poo-poo the fact that, maybe he isn't mentally where he needs to be at this point. I'm not saying that as a fact. I'm just saying that was kind of what it sounded like from Todd Downing. And maybe Mike Vrabel responded to the question. Oh yeah, here it was. Beautiful. On an underthrown ball. That should have been a touchdown. He shouldn't have had to wait for it anyway. But I don't want to, because last year, right, there were so many signs that things were going wrong that we ignored early on because we're like, hey, give the guy a chance.
Yeah, that was the show for 3 months.
Exactly. So I don't want to just push these things under the rug. I will acknowledge that maybe Stefon Diggs is being a little more annoying than they hoped. But I don't know if he's being more annoying than they expected because he is just who he's always been. So I feel like we said we weren't going to talk about this, and we have. But it's only because I feel that it is being slightly overblown. Mm-hmm. But if it's interesting, it's not important. I'll steal the line from Vrabel. Right now, these things are interesting, and they are worth monitoring, but they're not important enough where I'm going to write not that I usually write this way anyway, I'm more of the film guy, but I'm not going to do a 10-minute stand-up on is Stefon Diggs, prime to get cut, or is he hurting the Patriots? He's not doing anything that bad. So I think we can chill for right now, but maybe just keep it in your bookmarks to go back to.
That's the way to do it here. It's because there have been a few flare-ups isn't even the right word. Flare-ups is calling it too much, but again, the boat video and then this, right? It's there's a couple of things in vacuums aren't bad, put together, may add up to something, but right now I don't think it's really anything. It is, like you said, it's something to monitor, to keep it in the back of your mind, but I think he's been fine. And I think, too, you mentioned they signed Stefon Diggs knowing what they were getting. Stefon Diggs also signed with the Patriots knowing what he was getting into, a second-year quarterback, a wide receiver room that, is subpar, and he's going to be, yes, one of the better guys, but also coming off an injury in a system in Josh McDaniels where he likes to spread the wealth, and there's not necessarily going to be a go-to guy like Diggs all the time, or it's going to be a game, and everyone's a game plan offense. It's kind of a cliche, but like it might not be your week. It might be your week, this and that. And as you come off of injury, you kind of need to understand that. And I think he does. So people wondering, like, is he going to want the ball and is he going to be a diva? Like, I don't think we've seen that much yet. I know Downing kind of mentioned a little bit, like getting the ball to him, what have you, but I'm not too worried. Long story short, I think he's going to be fine. And as you mentioned, we'll keep monitoring things, but unless it's a complete blow up, I'm not too worried. Before we close out our picks.
And the last thing, I think it is significant that he was very quiet in team periods in that last joint practice as well. And it's not the first time. Like in team periods, it's usually Demario Douglas is getting the lion's share of targets, and then there's a lot of like checkdowns and even downfield throws to TreVeyon Henderson. And that's part of why I say he may be a practice, or he may just be a gamer and not really a practice player. And I'm not really going to freak out until I'm able to get the game tape, which is why I was disappointed he didn't play today. Like until I get the tape and see that he's not settling into zones, he's loafing on routes, he's not catching passes. Like when I see that on the game tape, then maybe we start raising some alarm bells. Like, no, this is not what they signed up for. He's supposed to be a professional.
Right.
But I don't have the game tape, so I do not want to make any declarative statements on why he's not as involved during team periods. Is it slightly not even concerning? Is it interesting?
Small C concerning.
Right. Small C concerning. Is it important? That's a big TBD for me.
All right. Well, that's our Diggs segment. We will get to, of course, Drake Maye, some stuff along the offensive line, and then maybe close out with TreVeyon Henderson and a little bit more special teams notes. But first, a quick word from our friends over at PrizePicks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash right now. And with millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. And all you got to do is pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. So run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can mix and match those player projections from all different sports as well. You can combine basketball players with baseball, hockey, basketball, and of course, football coming up shortly. There are preseason lineups available on PrizePicks, and the regular season is right around the corner as well. The app is super easy to use. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least two player props for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. And if you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So right now, go download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you to PrizePicks, as always, for sponsoring our shows here at CLNS. Again, it's the best place to get in on daily fantasy sports action. And if you use code CLNS, you get $50 instantly after you play $5. All right. Let's get to the offense, or let's continue with the offense rather. And I guess we'll hit on Drake Maye before we get into the offensive line. He goes 4 for 7, 46 yards, as you see on screen, 77.1 passer rating. A couple high throws, the one to Mac Hollins that he's able to haul in, but then another unfortunate one kind of sprays it high to Pop Douglas, and it's nearly intercepted after the tip. He also got called for a delay of game penalty. I couldn't really tell whose fault that was. It'll be interesting to kind of take a look at it after when we watch the film and see what happened there. But overall, I didn't think, after having two pretty good days, at least from what I saw from the reporting out there in Minnesota, I thought this was pretty subpar from Drake Maye. Now, he only played 2 drives. He didn't get a chance to really, take the cobwebs off and get entrenched in the game, if you will. But I don't like those misses from him. I think that's something where if you see a wide open Mac Hollins, who's a big body in itself, put it on the numbers. And then same with Pop Douglas. Looked like there could have been a little miscommunication. He thought Pop might have been going a little bit deeper, what have you. But what did you make of Drake Maye's performance after a good 2 days in Minnesota?
It was very brief, so I don't want to raise any alarm bells or anything, but I was disappointed because that high throw to Mac Hollins, that's dangerous. It's something in the water. We saw a few of those high throws over the middle from the quarterbacks, but if it's a robber coverage and there's a safety coming down, you need to give Mac Hollins a ball where he can protect himself. And if he's going up like that, that's a chance for him to take a big shot. The Demario Douglas one, I might give him a little more grace for that after watching it again. It does look like Pop was trying to settle into the zone, which maybe he was supposed to do. And Drake, it's so hard to know on those. I hope somebody asked him just what exactly happened on that play from his perspective. Yeah. The delay of game, though, is tough. That was maybe the most disappointing play for me because, one, the quarterback, more often than not, is responsible for making sure the operation is happening on time. Right. Now, maybe the film will tell us that something went wrong and it was outside of his control. But after last week, when we talked about the end of half situation before they went to Minnesota and Mike Vrabel pointing around at play clocks, being like, you need to be aware of what's going on, that makes it a little more concerning for me because this is a second-year quarterback who needs to be more consistent in the operation. Like, you can't – this is last year where you're shooting yourself in the foot with completely unforced errors. So you got to be better than that. But at the same time, I do like the fact that he is at least better later in the game. He had the scramble. Nice adjustment by Matt Collins to settle in along the sideline. Drake delivers a catchable ball. Didn't love that he took a hit on that scramble. Maybe I can watch it again and feel a little bit differently, but I thought he should have gotten rid of that ball to protect himself. Like, those are the things that they talked about where you don't need to take some of these hits. Like, let the ball go, live to fight another down. Again, maybe I'll feel differently upon further review, but it felt like there was more bad than good from Drake today because of the hit, because of the high misses or just the misses in general. But he also had a very short series, so I don't want to hold it against him, especially because I've been saying it on the channel. He was very impressive in terms of not making a lot of just jaw-dropping, what are you doing mistakes against a very difficult Vikings defense that just functions in a way that you're almost never going to – I don't think he's going to see this defense for the rest of the season. And even Mike Vrabel gave him some credit. That first day, there were one or two turnover-worthy throws. He did have some pretty bad misses, one on a trick play to Efton Chism where Chism was wide open for a touchdown and he missed him. I think the misses are just going to be something you have to deal with throughout this season. Maybe next year, that could be something he hones in on even more. But really what impresses me most is the fact that he seems to be seeing the field well, not putting it in bad looks. So that's been my biggest takeaway from this week. On top of the fact that, yeah, you may make plays against him and he might make mistakes, but he has the poise to not let it affect him. And more often than not, he's finishing practices or games on a high note. So credit to him there, but you got to be better in terms of game operation, and you got to be more consistent with your accuracy to the best of your ability.
And that's the one thing, like him ending practices on a high note and him bouncing back from having, tough starts to practice. Like, sometimes I'm like, all right, well, we'll just stop having the tough starts and just get your shit together and, put it on his numbers and knock. Yeah, right. Like, knock it off. But it is encouraging. And so like a day like today where he starts and I don't know if it's the jitters, I don't know if he's not warm yet, like whatever it is, whatever the reason is for him, whether it's footwork to miss Hollins and miss Douglas, like those are the things where we see him improve throughout a practice. So if he had a full game to kind of get himself settled down, my guess is that he would have performed better throughout the majority of the contest and kind of got his shit together, right? But we're not able to see that, so it looks like a concern. But we'd obviously need a full kind of game of tape and decision making and throws to make a more more valid judgment, if you will, on Maye. So again, 4 of 7 for 46 yards, a couple misses, has the 77.1 passer rating. But you mentioned the scramble play where he gets off, he gets out of the pocket and finds Matt Collins on the sideline. I thought the offensive line played pretty well today, Taylor. No sacks. Yep, there's Nelson. No sacks for Maye, Dobbs, or Wooldridge. Some good stuff in the run game. We saw Ben Brown and Will Campbell make a couple seal blocks on the TreVeyon Henderson touchdown towards the goal line. And overall, I thought it was a step in the right direction for this offensive line. Now, I'll say that and add in Ben Brown starts at left guard, even though Jared Wilson was healthy because Wilson ended up playing as the backup left guard with that second unit. So want to get your read on that entire situation from what you saw from the O-line today, as well as the changing of the guard, the changing of the left guard with Ben Brown and Jared Wilson, and what that means moving forward to start the regular season here.
So usually the trench stuff I'm uncomfortable talking about until the tape comes out because it can be hard to judge. But from what I saw, just the eye test, run game, not great. A lot of plays made behind the line of scrimmage for the Vikings throughout the entire contest. But I do like that the starting offensive line, there were a few really nice runs behind Will Campbell. The TreVeyon Henderson's touchdown. Garrett Bradbury got pushed into the backfield, I thought. Austin Hooper also looked like he let up some penetration. But Jack Westover did a great job sealing against Austin Hooper's guy to get a double to create a lane. Will Campbell and Ben Brown just drove their guys back and did a really nice job on the combo, and then seal to give TreVeyon Henderson a lane. Then obviously a great run from Henderson, showing contact balance to get in there. I wasn't happy with the inconsistency from the run game. I don't think they averaged 4 yards per carry. But the pass pro, man, I don't care who you're going against. The Patriots have their backups too, and a lot of these guys you're hoping at least can give you some kind of decent depth, especially as developmental pieces like Marcus Bryant. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome to see that they didn't give up any sacks. I don't remember a whole lot of times there were quick pressures. I know Trey Jacobs gave up one. And there was a free rusher, like Ben Woodson got nailed on that third down conversion to John Giles. Guy comes unblocked and he gets cracked. Yeah. I wasn't sure if maybe there was a blitzer that influenced that. And it was just Ben Woodson trying to get the ball out as quickly as he could. But you got to give them credit because we give this offensive line a lot of grief. They were not good this week against the Vikings. They really gave them trouble, especially in that second joint practice. Like, there were times where they were getting to the quarterback under 2.5 seconds, which you never want to see. Like situational football that would have just been completely derailed by pressures and sacks. But really nice bounce back from those guys. And Marcus Bryant, I can't wait to look at the tape, man, because I wasn't sure about him earlier on, obviously, because he was working with the backups. And again, I don't really like watching trenches live. I just don't get a lot of value from it personally. But when I saw the preseason tape against Commanders, he really impressed me because he's a guy where 42 career starts in college, and you see it. Like when he wins early, like Will Campbell, he's got powerful hands where he will just take you and steer you where he wants you to go, put you on your ass if he can. But when he doesn't win early, or if he has some kind of hiccup, he does a great job with body positioning, hand placement, and fighting to make sure that it's not an ugly loss. Like we saw so many times last year where guys are getting beat like that and have no chance of getting back to either protect the quarterback or just give running backs another tick of a second to maybe create a positive gain. So I hope the tape is as good as it was last week for him. But credit to the pass protection. Just need to do some better. We need to see better from the ground game, because also Shane Watts getting blown up in the backfield. We saw that once or twice today. That happened at least once or twice in both joint practices. There was one where 2 defensive linemen converged on him at the same time. You could hear it from the other side of the field, and everyone was like, ooh. So Shane Watts kind of flashed in those practices too. I'm getting off track. But again, especially with those depth guys, I'd like to see better from the ground game. But man, hats off to y'all for holding up in pass protection, because there were also some long dropbacks. Like you had Josh Dobbs kind of scanning at times, patting the ball, Drake Maye on some of the scrambles. It was just because nobody was getting open. So, yeah, a really good job by the pass pro unit.
Yeah, Pat's run game, 34 carries on 107 yards, only 3.1 yards a pop across the board. So not great there. But you mentioned the pass pro looks good. And then Marcus Bryant turning himself into a developmental right tackle and someone who they seem like they want to be able to rely on as a swing guy at spur of the moment in case of injury, what have you. So he plays right tackle for Morgan Moses on that first line, then moves over to left tackle when they move into the twos, and looks pretty good so far, manning both sides. So good on him, and a good step in the right direction for the O-line. Although I do kind of grain of salt it because they did look so poor against their ones. Then the twos come in and they play good against the twos, but it gives them some more game action to continue to kind of get used to each other and work out the kinks and what have you. So decent stuff there from the O-line. One last, what do we got here on the offense? Quick couple notes. Kyle Williams gets hurt, gets hit in the head. That looked unfortunate. We'll see what happens with him, though. He got popped. That was rough. Comes off the field, doesn't return. We'll see what his status is moving forward through the end of training camp here. What else? TreVeyon Henderson. I know we kind of hit it there, but man, he's such a beast. Like that, the way he kind of turned something out of nothing, late recovery and late blocks from Will Campbell and Ben Brown to kind of find a last-minute hole, and then he finds it and sorts the end zone, runs super hard, gets open on a wheel route, kind of was a nice drop in the bucket / hospital ball by Maye there because there was someone kind of beaming towards him.
He got pulled also, I think, Henderson. I think his inside arm, because it looked like when he tried to do it with one hand, I wasn't sure live, but when I looked back, I think he got yanked.
Yeah, but Henderson, again, has a good game. 5 yards of carry, a rushing touchdown. No Ramondre out there. I'm not going to try and make this a running back battle competition because I think they're going to use them interchangeably. But, like, if he keeps playing like this, how soon into the season does he become the 1A and Ramondre become the 1B?
That's a good question because a lot of it has been like who's going to be the lead back. And that's tough to answer, right? Because this is a game plan offense. We know that. There are going to be games where they just want to run up the middle and punch people in the teeth. Those games, you're going to see a lot more Ramondre. But in games where they're like, hey, this is matchup, like we want to just maximize TreVeyon Henderson. Like we saw games where James White was a starter. We saw games where Rex Burkhead was a starter. We saw games where whoever the power back was ended up being the starter. Now, Mondre seems like he's gotten banged up, and I don't think that helps. My one thing is I don't want to see TreVeyon Henderson be like Ramondre early in his career, where he is just carrying the entire offense. That's not fair. He doesn't have the frame, I think, to do. Like, he's obviously a big guy, but he's got some tread on his tires already. He's got a bit of an injury history. So that really is my only hesitation, though. In terms of pure talent, I would never take him off the field.
Right.
I'm literally like, that's where like an Ashton Genty gets drafted in the first round because he doesn't really have a significant injury history. He has the frame where he can take a lot of punishment. He can touch the ball like 1 billion times in the season, and he should still be relatively okay. I don't think TreVeyon Henderson necessarily has that profile. From a talent standpoint, I think the key is maximizing his touches, where if he is on the field, he's probably getting the ball or he's going to be a distraction. We saw like they use him in motion to identify coverages, to get certain matchup advantages. So I think in terms of impact, it would be fair to say that TreVeyon Henderson is going to be the lead back. But if we're talking about necessarily like rushing attempts or who's going to start the game, that's a little bit shakier because I don't think they want to just run this guy a ton. I think they want to maximize him as a receiver while also sprinkling him in as a runner, unless you get in a situation where Ramondre's fumbling a lot. Antonio Gibson, who we saw had a pretty good game today, is more boom by far than bust, but the bust is sometimes where he'll fumble or I don't understand why he makes a decision in the hole and he'll like whether he could just go straight ahead, he'll kind of bounce things. If those kinds of things bother them, maybe TreVeyon Henderson gets an even heavier workload. But I think he will be like the main threat in this backfield that every week people are planning for. I don't even think that's a question right now. But I still think that Ramondre is going to be that early down bruiser, and that truly will be a 1A, 1B type situation. So, gosh, it's tough to even say who 1A. Situationally, if you're talking like first, second, and third down, I would put Ramondre as 1A because I think, again, on first downs, they're just going to want him to punish the defense. But TreVeyon Henderson is going to get a ton of touches, and if he outpaces Ramondre in total touches, I would not be surprised.
I'm totally with you. He's younger. He can... Again, he looks faster. He looks like a dominant player in this offense. They're going to use the both of them. They're on an advantage here. It's not a competition really. It's just having two good backs, and Henderson is so young and able to do what he's been doing. Like, he just looks awesome. He looks like a shelf this man immediately. I saw Barth tweet bubble wrap in all caps. Like, I want this man off the preseason field and get him ready for week 1 and have him ready down the stretch as well because he's going to be an awesome player for this team. All right, let's close out with some special teams talk. I have on the lower third, John Parker Romo goes 1 of 1. Borregales missed a 57-yarder, pretty bad hit from 51. But we'll talk about the kickers after. I think the special teams unit in general that Jeremy Springer's running is some of the best special teams work we've seen from this team lately. Their kick returns are awesome. They're hitting all their assignments. Guys aren't coming unblocked. Now, they did let up a long return at the I think it was at the end of the first half, maybe, or the beginning of the second half, if I remember correctly. But overall, they look like they are on top of their stuff. A long return from Marcus Jones. The only thing that was tough was the Borregales shank, but overall, I thought they looked really solid on special teams again. And Jeremy Springer should be a proud special teams coordinator because he has those guys ready to roll every single week.
It's just kind of disappointing that the kickers have been a lot less consistent than they were earlier on.
Yeah,
like Andy Borregales has now missed there because he did it in the last practice where there was an end of half situation. He missed a long field goal attempt. He missed another long field goal attempt short during joint practices. And then today, now to be fair, the operation didn't seem clean because he was kicking with like a second or two left on the play clock. I don't think the execution once it actually happened necessarily looked rushed, but I wonder if just them having to kind of operate that way did impact the kick. So I don't want to go too hard. It's also a 57-yard field goal. That kind of miss also, like we haven't seen those just knuckleballs from him before. Yeah. So I wonder if that was maybe him just being in his head and trying to kind of speed up his process mentally, even if it didn't quite look that way physically. But really good on him to bounce back and make the kick. Like then John Parker Romo was kind of the opposite, where he makes his field goal, but then he he didn't get it into the landing zone, so it wound up being a penalty. So it's not like either one of these guys necessarily got a leg up, pun intended, in the competition. Like they both had up and down days. But and also want to give Jordan Polk, if we're talking about special teams, some credit there. Looked like late in the game on a big kick return, Trey Avery might have lost contain. I think he lost the returner because it looked like the guy was about to get tackled. But Jordan Pope, who had a really impressive game overall, going in my notes, giving him some love. He had the sack, obviously, was very physical in his run fits, and then chased down the returner and prevented what would have been a touchdown. So special teams unit overall, I did think was positive, even though there was that lapse, still showing the fight to not just, throw your hands up and say, damn, yeah, we gave up a touchdown. You still see the fight from Jordan Polk. And the kicker competition, it is intensified in a different way where it's not just like these two guys like nailing it every day. Now it's okay, who's going to even out and who is going to be the most consistent to end camp? Because while I do think the tie goes to the rookie, this is what I was talking about, where it's like if Borregales plays himself out of the competition, and again, Romo's also been inconsistent in his own right. Like there was the one day where he was 1 for 4, where Borregales was 2 for 5, I think, total. Just whichever guy is able to have a smoother landing to end this probably gets the job, but still, like Borregales should be in the lead just if we're talking about being realistic. Because what's Parker Romo going to give you in 2 years versus what is Andy Borregales going to give you in 2 years? That's not insignificant. So, unless something crazy happens, I still give it to Borregales. But if he just tanks this next week, then maybe, Foxborough flu or something like that. But I don't, there's no reality in my mind where Borregales is off the roster.
I agree. Our friend Alex Barth would love for them to keep 2 kickers. That's been his thing forever, to roster 2 kickers. I don't see that happening. But yeah, we'll see. The one concern on top of, the fact that he shanked it so poorly is the fact that it was indoors. And that's a thing where, okay, the conditions are pretty managed there. You would think that he would at least give it a better kick. But again, if it's a rush process and he's not really, if it happens so fast, it doesn't really matter because it's going to go, it's going to go awry anyway. But again, besides that, some good stuff special teams wise. And I think a promising direction overall moving forward for Jeremy Springer's unit. Anything else, Taylor, before we get out of here? Any miscellaneous thoughts that we did not hit here as the Patriots get to 2-0 to start the Mike Vrabel era?
I want to give both Drake and TreVeyon Henderson credit for that 3rd and 10 conversion. It looked like Drake checked the play when he saw 2 high safeties. So credit to him there. And then TreVeyon Henderson, that was more impressive to me than the touchdown run because I did not think he was going to get that. And he showed that contact balance that we always see. So credit to him there. Let's see. Alex Austin for the 3rd down pass breakup on the slot fade. We saw the same thing last week. He had 2 illegal contact penalties. At least one of those is bullshit. I think they called it on the wrong person. So I think he is really earning himself a look at least to get in that starting rotation because Marcus Jones is a guy that they've been using outside when Carlton Davis or Gonzo's not there. He got torched by Jordan Addison. And as much as I like Marcus Jones and think in certain matchups he's very good, if there's anybody that he's covering that's 6 foot or taller, it just isn't a fair matchup. There's not a lot he can do because he's tiny and he has short arms. So you can be all over the guy, but if they put it higher than you can jump or reach, it doesn't really matter. And I think Alex Austin being that more physical presence that you typically see from a Vrabel slot corner could give him an advantage. The screen defense, got to figure that out. Because in practice, in the first joint practice, the Patriots had no idea that the Vikings were running a screen. Jalen Hawkins, the poor guy, is trying to be the one man to stop it when there's multiple offensive linemen downfield. He wound up getting pancaked. And then today, there were at least 2 chunk gains on screens where I did not think the Patriots had nearly enough guys to rally around. So I need to see better from the screen defense. Offensively, JaMychal Hasty, want to give him some love, averaged a healthy 4 yards per rush, which was pretty impressive considering he wasn't getting a whole lot of help from his offensive line. He had a key block on Marcus Jones's big return on punt team. He got a catch as it was a 5-yard gain, but did a nice job making himself available as a hot read when there was a free rusher. Joshua Dobbs dumped it off to him very quickly. Also had a 3rd down conversion on a run I thought was impressive and some nice reps in blitz pickup. There was one where he kind of moved his rusher around and gave Ben Wooldridge some time to move up in the pocket. And John Giles also, give him some credit, man, because he got 2 at least one of them was definitely a hospital ball, but he had to adjust some high passes and did a great job doing that. Did have a drop on an open target, so he is human, but also had an end around carry. So he's not making the team, but now at this point, I don't think he's making the practice squad because if a team is looking for just one of those guys who's going to work very hard on special teams and give you a little bit more depth, I think he's perfect for that. He's earned an opportunity to be more than just a practice squad player. And that's about it. Just John Giles, that was very impressive effort for him if you exclude the drop.
Good stuff. All right. Well, the Patriots start 2-0 under Mike Vrabel, though it is only the preseason. So some good, some bad, some ugly today, just like there was last week, just like there's always going to be in a preseason game. But again, they get the win here. Big day from Efton Chism. Down arrow, unfortunately, for Kyle Duggar. And we will keep an eye on all of it as the Pats continue their preseason. One more to go next week against the Giants in New York. So we will have some more coverage throughout the week, obviously, and continuing through the rest of this Patriots season. So keep it here on Patriots Press Pass. Rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Taylor also has an exclusive interview with Efton Chism. It is on the channel now, so make sure to go check it out. An awesome conversation with the Patriots training camp darling, who now looks like a 53-man roster lock. So make sure you check it out there. We'll be back this week as well here on Patriots Daily. We're powered by Prize Picks. We're also powered by Monarch Money, so check out both of those. Our friends over there. And yeah, we'll be back on Patriots Press Pass, Patriots Daily later this week as the Patriots continue on their preseason. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. For Taylor Kyles, I'm Mike Kadlick. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you next time. Peace out, everyone.